Hi, my name is Rob Adams, and I was involved in a serious motorcycle accident. It was late December, warm. I don't get my bike out unless it's 45 degrees or warmer, so the roads are safe. So it was a beautiful day for a December day. I was headed to lunch with a potential business partner. I was pulling up right there by the Valley Fair Mall, heading east, and there was a minivan that was parked and pulled back a little bit from this next person. There's 4 lanes of traffic that head east, and so I looked in my rearview mirror and I saw the charge of cars coming, and I thought, this would be a good day to lane filter. And because he was pulled back behind the other car where the crosswalk was, I thought that it would be a really great condition because I wasn't really filtering. I wasn't going between the cars. So I pulled around the van, made eye contact with the driver of the van, and pulled forward so that I was even on the line, ready to go. I have 6 speakers on my bike, and so I was listening to the music, just enjoying the beautiful day. And the next thing I know, the guy that was in the van rear-ended me, hit me in my left saddlebag, and threw me off of my motorcycle onto the car that was parked next to me. I slid down the hood. I remember making eye contact with the driver of the car, kind of slid down and landed on the ground, just laid there kind of in shock. I was not anticipating anything because I lane filtered so that I wouldn't be hit. And I obeyed the law. I understand lane filtering. I know exactly the speed you need to be going, how things need to work, because I don't take motorcycle riding lightly. It's my life. I was wearing a helmet that day. I was wearing a proper jacket. I was wearing all of the gear necessary to safely ride my bike. The officer lifted my bike with a couple of the witnesses, got my bike up. It's a really heavy motorcycle, about 900 pounds. So to lift it up is an effort. And I could see right away that the saddlebag, which it's fiberglass, it's not leather, was incredibly damaged. And then the side that it fell over on, it was damaged. And I just remember thinking, like, what am I going to do? I mean, what's next? Because this isn't something you plan on having happen. The officer had me move my bike, so I got on my motorcycle and I drove it down around the corner. He held traffic. I cut across the front of traffic down the crosswalk and pulled into the parking lot where he could do a report. The ambulance came and they asked me how I was doing, and I did the test and how many fingers am I holding up, and I don't think that they thought I had a concussion or anything like that. And so I was able to stand up by then. I could feel some bumps and bruises, but I didn't take into assessment like everything that was happening. It was so much. I had a damage to my knee where I needed to have surgery to repair my knee. I had damage to my elbow. I had damage to my spine, and I had some compression problems. And so I was really very surprised how quickly my physical body had been damaged. My motorcycle had a significant amount of damage. It doesn't take very much to do a lot of damage with all that paint and plastic and chrome. And so I was at a loss. I had been introduced to the advocates through their charitable outreach beforehand. And I thought, who do I know that I can reach out to? Because I didn't want to call someone out of the phone book. I didn't want to just make a random phone call. And so I called my friend at the advocates, and she's like, oh, I got you. I'll have this gentleman call you. And my attorney called me like right away, which was a surprise because attorneys typically have a reputation for not calling back. And he explained to me what needs to happen next. He told me, okay, well, this is what we need to do. And do you have a chiropractor? Do you have all these things? I'm going to have a doctor call you. I had a doctor call me and they did assessments on strength. And so I didn't really know my physical injuries until I talked to the attorney, and he's like, well, how about this? And how about that? And I read contracts for a living, and he went through the agreements and the statements and everything to the point that I felt comfortable working with him every step of the way. And then he had a gal that called me, and she just this is where you're headed and this is what you're going to do. And he's made it so easy. They just dropped appointments on my calendar, and away I went, and I got a full x-ray of my entire body, and I've got that full medical assessment. So I felt like everything was covered. And then in the meantime, they made arrangements for my motorcycle to be picked up and delivered to a certified repair company, not just some shady repair company. Like, that was the shop I would have sent it to. And so kind of took the victimization out of it. It kind of put me into a place of this is what we're going to do, rather than I don't know what's next. Because of my business, I know that not all professionals in a field are created equal. Not all plumbers are good plumbers. Not all attorneys are good or bad, but there is a definite stigma around PI attorneys. And so I was really grateful that I had already had the connection with my friend at the advocates who said I know the right guy to talk to. And so there was an immediate level of trust already moving forward. But I was really very surprised at how patient he was with me. I was really very surprised, and I honestly didn't feel, and I have a very high sensitivity to someone talking down to me or treating me like I'm an idiot. And I never felt that way. I always felt like he was accommodating and made me feel like, oh, if you don't know, you don't know. That's a great question. And I felt like I called him and he didn't always answer. That wasn't the expectation, but he called me back much more quickly than I had anticipated. So I was very impressed with the service I got. He gave me like a lot of information outside of his scope because he was focused on my bike and my body, not the kind of the criminal side, but I felt like I had a good person that I could go to ask questions about, well, I feel like this is what happened. And he gave me the tools or resources to pursue that. And he was right. He's like, you're going to be wasting your time because there wasn't a recording or whatever. And he was right. I did try to press criminally and there just wasn't enough evidence. It was kind of my word against his on how it went down. Also, the gal that he had working with him, she was amazing. She was just like right on it.
So Rob Adams' case was a motorcycle case, which we see frequently, especially in the summer months. And his case was a typical motorcycle case in the sense that a lot of times it's just the drivers out on the road do not notice motorcyclists. So he came up alongside a car, they didn't see him, they kind of veered over into him, hit him, flipped him off his bike, and he was pretty severely injured. So how we helped Rob, he had to have surgery, and so he was out of work for several months. We made sure that his lost wages got covered. We made sure that his medical bills, he had significant medical bills because of surgery and an ER stay and so forth. We got his medical bills covered for him. And then really what we helped him do was just get back to life because, like I said, he was out of work. He couldn't do a lot of the things that he enjoyed doing, which the biggest thing was riding motorcycles. So it was a motorcycle accident, but he couldn't ride a motorcycle for several months. So luckily he healed back up, got back out on his motorcycle, got back out on the road, and was able to do what he enjoyed.
My concern was that I would be treated like a transaction rather than a person, and that was never my feeling. I felt as though my health and my well-being, my mindset was more important than getting the deal done, where a lot of attorneys would treat it maybe a little differently. And so I'm a huge believer in what the Advocates does and how they do it. An advocate is someone who treats you as a person and not a transaction. I was treated as though my health and my well-being was paramount. It wasn't secondary to the transaction, the courts, the paperwork. It was the most important thing, and I think that's what an advocate is. I would say the one thing that the Advocates did that I would say was unique is they exceeded my expectations, which it doesn't happen very often anymore in the professional and personal world, and at every level they exceeded my expectations in delivering information, everything. It was awesome. I could have been more blessed to have aligned with such a great organization.